Now, I'm not saying that Bruce Wayne is Batman, but I've never seen them both in the same room. Hey there, kids. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, hoping that you are having a great day. And in today's video, we are going to be sitting back, relaxing, and chatting about Final Fantasy, the universe's beyond sensation that is destroying the nation, if you would believe it. And we're going to be talking specifically about pre-orders, specifically pre-ordering singles. And I want to take this opportunity to try once again to get everybody to just calm down when it comes to Final Fantasy cards in general. Because as we leave pre-release weekend and approach release weekend, because that is a few days away, I want everyone to just sit back and think about, is it worth getting all worked up over the current prices of the sealed product when you examine the singles on the market? And yes, I know everybody intrinsically understands just buy singles if you're chasing a specific card or two. But it appears that in the chase, in the fervor, in the hype of the moment, a lot of people tend to forget that basic fact, especially as a new set edges closer to release. And here we have a situation where it's very easy to see a very strong argument for just picking up singles, because we're seeing a situation where sealed product across the board for the set, even products that in another set probably wouldn't even be selling. I'm looking at you, Arena Starter Kit. We're seeing these sealed products have drastic climbs upwards. I mean, look, a week and a half ago, the collector boxes were 700. Now they're peaking above 800. Play boosters were 160, 175. Now they're 200 and climbing. Or approaching 200, I should say. Like 190, 185. Okay? We're seeing some really drastic price increases as the market continues to show its fervorous hunger for these Final Fantasy boxes. And don't get me wrong, these are still highly collectible, highly desirable pieces of Magic merchandise. I do believe that these will become genuine collector's items down the road. But as people continue to be priced out of these high-end sealed products, they tend to just kind of throw in the towel. And maybe not throw in the towel in terms of playing Magic in general, but they just kind of go, well, I guess I can't get any of the cards. That's not true, because inversely, as we're seeing more and more price hikes for the secondary market values of these sealed products, their single counterparts are doing the opposite aggressively. So, in fact, Final Fantasy, in my opinion, has had some of the most shocking price dips for any real Magic the Gathering set leading into the final lap before release. I've been keeping an eye on Bloomborough, for instance. Bloomborough is a good one to keep an eye on in terms of the specialty foils. Magic, what was it called? Foundations, that was a good one to keep an eye on. Aether Drift, with its golden finisher racetrack finish. I forget what the special golden foiling treatment was called, but it was some obnoxious name, and I was keeping an eye on that. But here with Final Fantasy, all the attention is obviously on the sealed products. Yeah, don't get me wrong, those are very good, very highly desirable. Everybody wants one, obviously, whatever. But it's also the, in terms of the actual cards, the cards to keep an eye on are the Surge foils, the full art, extended art, whatever, Surge foils, like the special foiling treatment. And we're seeing some real aggressive price dips with a lot of them, especially some of the higher end cards like the Cloud Midgard Mercenary, Tifa Lockhart, some of like the real big names in Final Fantasy in terms of collectability. Like some of the cards that you would expect to be some of the most highly sought after in terms of just collector's pieces. Whether or not they're play pieces is another matter. And we're seeing these cards dip aggressively. I'm not going to say they're in free fall, because because I don't think they're in free fall. But if I were a bit less careful with my words, I would see a 50% price decrease over a period leading up to release and go, yeah, that's free fall. I could see how someone might think Cloud going from almost $600 to under $300. I could see how some people would see that as free fall in terms of price. The Tifa Lockhart, the green one, not the yellow one, she went from some arbitrary number, I forget what it was, nearing like 250, something like that. I should have kept the numbers up on the screen. My mistake, whatever. But she's under 100 right now, and it's not selling at under 100. Isn't that crazy? So as we're approaching release window, not only are more copies of these higher end or rarer chase cards. There we go. Boom, chase cards. Because these are the surge foils. They are some of the chase cards of the set. Not only are more of them entering the market, but as they're entering the market and as player wallets enter the picture, we're starting to see some serious downward pressure on those overall prices because there's going to be more hitting the market, especially on release weekend. There's going to be a bunch of stores who don't have access to the pre-order slot on TCG Player that are going to be dumping their inventories in the market. They're going to have plenty of these cards, right? They're going to have a lot of them. And that's going to put even more pressure on the prices to slide them downwards just a bit. And you know, there are people who are they're like really feeling the FOMO right now when it comes to Final Fantasy because they're seeing these sealed products go up and up and up, and they're worried that they might miss out on some of the singles cards. You know, what if, you know, I don't know, Golbez or Cloud of Darkness. Is Cloud of Darkness on the set? I wasn't paying attention. What if some of these Garland, you know, what if your favorite character suddenly has a huge price increase and you know, the secondary market price for Golbez, I'm just going to use Golbez. I don't know why I'm thinking of him right now. What if Golbez skyrockets to $300 and you missed out? Well, I don't think that's going to happen right now. I think what's going to happen in the immediate future is what typically happens in regards to single prices post-release. I think we're going to see a substantial dip in price and we're going to see a small race to the bottom. I don't know if it'll be as bad a race to the bottom as a lot of traditional Magic sets because we haven't seen that with a lot of previous Universes Beyond sets. But I think with Final Fantasy, there's an extra factor in play in comparison to a lot of the other specialty sets, a lot of the other Universes Beyond sets, and that is the sheer volume of people buying and opening these because there's such high demand. That demand does lead to some interesting market fluctuations. And, you know, I'm going to take a step back here and remind everybody that, you know, I'm not the smartest person on the planet, but I can see some interesting patterns happening. And one of the interesting patterns I see happening is more and more people online. You're seeing it all the time. There's a bunch of people on YouTube opening up these boxes. They're hunting for the serialized Chocobo or the neon inked Chocobo. And don't get me wrong, those are still extremely rare cards that are probably going to have a hefty price tag. I think the green one's like 2K or something. It was crazy. But it doesn't take a genius to see that there's probably going to be a substantial dip in terms of secondary market prices for a lot of the normal chase cards in the set. The Surge Foils, the alternate arts especially. Like we saw the Ristic Study alt art go from like $120 to $89 over the course of the weekend. That's a big jump down. So, you know, I understand that there's a lot of people out there right now who are worried that they're going to miss out on their favorite characters or some specific cards they want to play, but we just passed pre-release weekend, so just focus, just remain calm, and remember, pre-release weekend just passed, and we saw a substantial dip in prices across the board for singles. I think another substantial dip is going to come on release, and then you have to worry. But, you know, release plus like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, several months. I think, you know, the release window, give or take 6 to 12 weeks, is when a lot of these cards are going to dip pretty low. Maybe not like I don't think they're going to lose like 99% of their current value. I don't think TIFF is going to go from a $99 card to a $10 card. I don't think that's going to happen. But if you look at the sheer volume of these boxes being opened, the sheer number that's probably going to enter the open market on TCG Player next week, yeah, it's probably safe to say that you can sit back, relax, and just wait a few more days for your favorite character to climb down a few more bucks in price, right? Really, all this video is just me trying to reiterate something that I tried saying a few months ago. I think I put out a video a while back saying, you know, everybody should just calm down about Final Fantasy because, yeah, it's going to be a highly collectible set, but there's also going to be a lot of the singles in the market. So just, you know, if you're worried about not getting a hold of one card or a handful of cards, whatever, you know, just remember that there's going to be a lot out there. So that's all I'm saying in my loop as I ramble on again, because I know that we've reached the part of this chat session where I just repeat myself a lot, but you know, it really does need to be hammered home that for now you can just calm down. We're seeing some interesting price moves. In fact, if I pull up, let's pick on, sure, Yuna, boop boop boop. If we look at the sales history for the Yuna, what's the full name? Yuna, Hope of Spira, borderless surge foil. That's the whole specialty thing there. Forgive me, I'm going off on a tangent now, but I want to prove a point. So if we look at this history, currently there's 54 available, and 5 have sold in the sales history. I can clearly see that more than 5 have sold. Whatever. We're seeing that the very first sale last month was for over $500, $500 to $2. That's crazy. But since then, as we've approached pre-release windows and the release window upcoming, we're seeing that the price dipped to $350, $278, $244, $240, $228, and now, you know, today there was a sale. Yeah, today there was a sale for $195. 500 down to $195. That's impressive. That's crazy. And keep in mind that most of those sales were in the last week or so. So if we count out that 500 one, you know, still $350 down to, because that was on the 4th. Yeah. So in the last 4 days, this card has gone from $350 in terms of actual sales down to $195. That's $100+ dip. That's a 30% dip for a card, for a sealed product, for a singles card. Sorry, not a sealed product. So just remain calm.